So this is Honest Thoughts, Conor McGregor versus Poirier. This is going to be a super interesting fight. I'm really excited for this one. Did not think that first one was going to go that way. There's a lot of things that happened that I did think were going to go that way. There's things I was saying that, okay, Poirier kind of needs to do these things to win. And he did quite a few of them, especially the takedowns. That early takedown, whether it was planned or intentional or not, or the opportunistic, or Conor made a mistake or whatever, that I think that had giant impact on the fight. Enough of an impact where I think it gave Poirier the win. The leg kicks, giant impact that I didn't think was going to happen. Didn't think that Poirier was not only going to throw them, that frequently and effectively, but, was going to be the focus of the fight. I think there's a lot of X factors in that fight that people maybe didn't consider. Like, that leg kicks were a giant factor in that fight, but I don't think it was the only giant factor. I think one of the factors is not only the takedown and making Conor tired. I don't think it's just the tired thing, because Poirier gets tired too. We saw that not as tired. Like, Poirier got tired against Max, but then again, who doesn't? And he did catch a second win in like round 4 or whatever it was, but I think it's a close range thing. I think it's something that happens that there's literally like this enormous wasp outside my window. I think there's something that happens when Conor's too close, he can't land power. All of the strikes we've seen really hurt people are long ones. And one of the things in that fight that gives Poirier a natural advantage is that Conor and Poirier are both natural southpaws. Now, okay, what does that mean? They have a closed stance. They both have their lead hand opposite. They have the same lead hand forward. That means there's certain things that are not available. When you have an open stance, your jab is less effective, but your power hand is more effective. It's the opposite. Your lead hand is much, much, much more effective in a closed stance, and your power hand is slightly less effective. And Conor doesn't throw jabs. Have you seen him throw a jab? I've never seen him throw a jab. He throws a lead hand out there. He's got a good right hook, but his right hand is not effective at controlling his opponent in a closed stance. In an open stance, he traps. Poirier doesn't fight like a southpaw. Conor specializes in fighting like a southpaw. He traps, he attacks the lead leg, and then he throws a perfectly straight punch down the center, and then he throws, a very traditional left high kick, and then he throws some other round kicks to kind of corral you and stop your movement, push you backwards and pressure you. But at the end of the day, he's waiting to trap you to move forward. What he really wants is for you to throw a left hook at him in southpaw, and then he dusts you with a straight left hand. And all of that's taken away from him. And Poirier's got a better lead hand, obviously better practice in leg kicks and better at defending leg kicks, especially that calf kick. It's not just a leg kick, we're talking about that calf kick. The way Conor defends is he has a pseudo karate stance, kind of a Whitaker-ish stance, where he doesn't lift his head like a tie to check and turn his foot all the way out. He's puts more weight and stabilizes that front leg to defend, which is normally great, and especially great in southpaw, but it's a problem, especially against Poirier. I think Poirier and Conor both hit equally hard, but in different ways. I think Poirier hits overall harder, and I think Conor, certain punches are hard as fuck. At a certain range, his right hook's really hard, and so is his left hand. But there's something that happens, like in round 1 when they got up, and Conor's great takedown defense and even better standing up from a takedown. Despite what anybody says, you know, it's not like Whitaker good, but like it's good. But something happens, like even when Conor had Poirier against the fence, and he's landing stuff with like his shoulder, which is not bad, but like no short uppercuts, no DC, pull your head down and collar tie, overhand right, none of that. Like, he fights at range. He does not like throwing punches when his shoulders are square in a, you know, shorter closed stance. You know, even though he was more flat-footed and was more boxer in this fight, you know, that's a criticism of him, but that's a better stance than orthodox. You know, and he's in a reverse orthodox. So, you know, that's a game plan and that's technique. And if he had you know, the stance he had against Aldo or Eddie, you know, he would have got dusted even worse. Yeah. So that's what makes this rematch interesting, is because now Conor's practiced for the leg kicks, expecting the leg kicks, and if he is 100% recovered, that's a weapon taken away from Poirier, and now this fight is much closer. You know, because I don't think there was anywhere in the game plan where Poirier was like, okay, in the first round, I definitely need to take him down, and then after I do X, Y, and Z, you know, overhand right into knee grab or whatever, you know, or like, you know, DC into like the hand traps, and you throw a punch, I dip to my right in a single leg. Like, I don't think he had techniques to work his way into the takedown. I think it was like a thought like, okay, yeah, it would be good if I could slow the fight down, clinch up, and maybe take him down, but I don't think that was his plan or what he was expecting. Now, that being said, that might be a good move to do, and it might be a good move to take Conor down in the first round, but I don't know if he can. One giant thing that Conor's really good at, and something that he's used his whole career, is he establishes control in the center of the octagon. And the way his number one defense is his feet. And he's got great defense everywhere, but takedowns or punches or kicks, you know, he's really good at sliding backwards just a half step, even when he is in a flatter stance. You know, and that's his primary takedown defense. You don't really see him sprawl. And Poirier allows himself to be backed up. He did it against Khabib. He did it against Justin Gaethje. Without throwing punches at him, you can back him up to the fence. You know, and he did it at the beginning of that Conor fight, until the takedown. He even did it at the end of the Conor fight. You know, until Poirier moved out to his right, clipped him with a right hook, and turned it around and had Conor, they switched their positions, and he moved his way to the center octagon and had Conor against the fence, and then started dropping bombs on him. You know, they're both great finishers. This fight's going to be wild. Someone's going to get caught, someone's going to get hurt, and then the person that gets caught and hurt is going to lose. But it's hard to know what weapons are going to facilitate that. Personally, I think Poirier should push the pace a little bit and roll the dice on his cardio and try to force Conor, not necessarily into an exchange, but into close range where there probably will be an exchange, and into a clinch and or takedown. You know, Conor had problems against Nate Diaz against the fence. You know, I think he has problems against the fence. He's not like a savant at that. And I think if Poirier can get him there, even if Conor maybe gets a little bit better of it because he's so explosive, you know, I think it would be a net positive for Poirier, and he can turn it into like third, fourth round Max Holloway Poirier. He can turn it into like an equal, he can trade punches with Conor without worried about getting dusted and knocked out. You know, that early long range Conor is fucking dangerous. He will snipe you, you know. And the last, I mean, basically since his last win, he hasn't been able to snipe someone long distance and early. He couldn't snipe Nate. He's tall. Nate's a southpaw also. You know, he can take a retarded punch. He can take a ridiculous punch. You know, and he's got great boxing and rolls the punches. Khabib took him down. Mayweather is Mayweather. But even in that fight, it wasn't a straight left hand, but he did catch Mayweather early with a long uppercut. Those long punches early on are fucking dangerous from Conor. And he will dust you with them in the first round. You got to get him out of the first round. Get him, take a little bit of edge off those punches, sap a little bit of his strength, you know, because if you do what, like Max Holloway did something interesting against Aldo. Max Holloway typically is a volume puncher. Well, he slowed down his volume a little bit and let Aldo come at him a little bit and prioritize his defense and let Aldo throw big punches and, you know, take a little bit of sting off those big punches. And that worked. Here's the difference. You have to take those stings off of Conor's punches, but that doesn't, you can't do it by being defensive because he doesn't waste energy. He's gonna come at you, but he comes at you kind of like the way Darren Till does. He comes at you with this like weird intangible pressure of feinting and lead hand control and shucking and jiving before he drops his left hand. He has a very intelligent boxing, striking, you know, he's a very intelligent fighter. And what's dangerous about him is, like, you got to make him tired. You got to make him tired without him fucking dropping bombs on you. So that's a problem Poirier's got to figure out. I think for me, Poirier is like the favorite to win. I think he's got some natural advantages against Conor. I think it's a bad matchup for Conor stylistically, but yep, that's it. Those are my thoughts. Super excited to watch that fight, and we'll see what happens.